Hello, welcome to Rose Floral School, the show. My name is Catherine, and today's episode is all about deciding whether you want to start a floral design company. Now, there are tons of factors that go into a decision like this, financial things, lifestyle things, physical, even health things that you should consider. But the main angle that we are going to talk about today is really that differentiation between being the floral business owner and being a floral designer or a florist. Now, there is a lot of overlap, especially in the beginning of your business. You will be the owner and the designer and all the other things as well. But there are some key differences that really you should think about when you're trying to decide which one is the better fit for you. And really, to put it simply, that is the difference. Do you want to be a business owner or do you want to be a floral designer? And again, there is a lot of overlap, but if you really don't want the business ownership part of it all, then what would be a fit for you would be to go to an existing shop or an existing floral business, or even do freelance design work and just do the design work. If that's really what you think you want to do, that's perfect for you. But if you like all the extra business ownership things that come with it, then that will be the avenue for you. So today, I just want to talk a little bit more in depth about all those differences and all the things that come with the business ownership avenue when you are getting into the wedding floral industry. So as a business owner, of course, you right in the beginning typically are wearing all the hats. You're doing all kinds of different things. Not always, depending on how you structure your business, what your startup, process is like, you might be doing a different thing. But for me, what I did in the beginning was I did everything. So all the design work, all the prep work, all the marketing and advertising. I even did all the graphic design, which that is pretty often something that you can outsource. But in the beginning, I was 19 years old and I knew my way around Photoshop. So I did all of my own graphics, web design, all of that good stuff. And even, some of the light bookkeeping and the just every single job that existed in my business, I was doing. Which again, as you grow, you'll find what you want to outsource. You'll work into that and not be doing everything all the time. But in the beginning, if your business is you're setting your business up, just as you to start, you need to be prepared for that and prepared to do all those different parts. And they don't all have to be your favorite. They don't all have to be your zone of genius, and they probably won't, because nobody is good at everything. But you do need to be prepared to do the things and to learn where you're weak or outsource where you can. And just be prepared for that. I think a lot of small business owners kind of, I don't know if it's like, I don't think they're necessarily surprised, because I think, people understand that that's all on you. But there's sort of like an animosity that people carry sometimes about certain tasks, which, yeah, it's I don't think you're meant to do all of it all the time. But if you didn't want to do the marketing or, the bookkeeping or the social media or the processing and prep work, then you need to come into it with a strategy to hire that out. Or you just need to accept that is part of being the business owner. That's just one of the things that you accept unless you are willing and able to hire it out. So just be prepared to wear all those different hats. Again, you shouldn't be wearing them all indefinitely all the time. But if you know that you don't want to spend a single second doing any sort of marketing or anything like that, and you can't hire and you won't hire, it's not going to work. That's not a fit for you, because that is part of it. And even if you do hire out a certain segment, we'll just say social media for, the conversation's sake. If you do hire that out, you still are going to be involved. You are still the one that will call the shots and, form the direction and take the input and take the, the consulting advice or whatever it is and make the decision. So you do have to be prepared for that. And that is actually kind of my second point. Be prepared to be the decision maker and the leader. And this is something that you can and will grow in. This is something I'm still growing, into and expanding and learning. And we all are all the time. But just be prepared to put on that leadership hat, and to lead, whether it's, leading your clients and being that competent vendor that can help them and guide them and show them how to get, from A to Z, whether it's leading your team or just leading the business itself. So streamlining systems and figuring out the next direction and the better way, and what you do like, what you don't like, what works and what's not, and then making the decision to go in that new direction or pivot or stay where you are. Whatever it is, you need to be prepared to lead and to make decisions. And again, this is something we all are constantly getting better at. But if you are the most indecisive person in the world, you know that you hate making decisions and you don't want to have to be in charge in that way. Business ownership, in the floral industry probably is not for you. But again, you could work for another business owner, work in a shop, freelance, and that could be a fit, because there's just so many decisions to make. There's systems to figure out and processes. There's a lot of information out there, and I'm looking forward to sharing more and more about my own systems, my back end, my templated things for recipes or quotes or contracts or whatever. And that's great. You can take advantage of so many resources, but there are points where you just have to kind of figure things out. And this is my next point. You need to be prepared and excited and ready to figure some things out as you go. Of course, take advantage of all the resources, but take advantage of your own destiny and your own business and your own plan, and just, take control of that and be ready to figure some things out, because there's so much information out there, but it's hard to even find the right things. Sometimes it's hard to sort through everything. Maybe your perfect resource exists, but you just can't find it. Or maybe what you need literally doesn't exist. And it's your job as the business owner to figure that out, which I really like. I mean, I always have liked trying to find a solution that didn't exist. I remember, small little story here, but just to kind of break this up a bit, have a little story time. When I was in college, I was doing a fashion program, and I was making a set of garments for the fashion show, and there was one small fabric shop that was within, I don't even know, an hour radius of where I was. And it was okay, but it didn't have anything different. It just had regular fabric. So I went right on into Walmart and walked around, and I bought lampshades and floor mats for cars and shelf tray liners, and I don't even know what else, shower curtain things. I bought all this random other stuff. I went into Walmart and said, I need materials with cool textures that give an interesting, weird, funky finish. And I bought a whole bunch of stuff and made it work and used that. And I think about that all the time when I go into the hardware store or a nursery or landscaping store or the grocery store. And you can look around and say, oh, I need to make this certain different shape of a thing for an installation for a ceremony or whatever it is, or oh, these bowls that you get at the wholesaler aren't working and I need something longer and narrower and this big and this big, and you can picture it in your head, and you can get yourself out of that box of needing to find something that exists for that purpose and just go find something that exists for another purpose but works for yours, and just use that, and use something that's not even in the floral industry, but it works and it solves the problem, and go find it. And there are so many things, especially once you get into a lot of custom work, different things, especially if you are trying to design with less foam or no foam or reusable mechanics or whatever it is, or mechanics that the guests can take with them. There are so many different things out there where you can use something that isn't meant for that and it will solve your problem even better than a perfectly designed thing might have ever even done. And finding those kinds of things, whether it is a physical item or just like a solution, a document, a PDF that you can send to your clients that helps bridge this gap where the communication is lacking, or whatever it is, you will have to invent things that don't exist to solve the problem that you have or fill the need that you have. And you need to be ready to do that. And it's not always easy. It can be tricky. You can always get onto a forum or send a message and pick people's brains or think it through. But at the end of the day, sometimes the best mechanics don't even exist yet, and they're in your mind and they're inside, and you need to figure that out and bring it to life and sort of take the charge, make the decision, figure things out, and solve the problem that you have on your own. Not that you're doing it alone and isolated, like you're on your own, but you do need to take the ownership that it's your problem to solve, your need to fill, and just take that ownership on. And I think if you can have a point of view where that's exciting to you and that sounds like a cool, fun challenge and solving these puzzles and figuring things out and making your own new way to do something, if that sounds exciting to you, then business ownership, I think, could be a really good fit for you. On the other hand, if you like to have more of like a here's how you do it, A, B, C, follow these instructions, and you'll end up with that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if that is what you prefer, you might be better off being the floral designer in the business versus the business owner. So I feel like those were all pretty big ones. And honestly, that last chunk, that's almost maybe the big main one that exists. It's just that difference between being told what to do and figuring out what to do, or deciding what to do, and making your own path. And I really think that probably is, if I had to pick one most important thing, I think that is it. And again, there's a lot of information out there. I mean, we're here right now talking and teaching and learning. There are so many resources to, figure out what the new mechanics are, or how do you make this, how do you make that? But if you're not willing to take the ownership, do the back work yourself, figure some of it out yourself. If you prefer to be told what to do, then I wouldn't necessarily gear 100% into the business ownership side of things. But let me think here for 1 second. Yeah, I kind of think that might be the most important one. And then, I don't know, little other things like, are you willing to grow the business and, outsource? We talked about outsourcing in the beginning. Are you willing to hire for certain positions? Are you willing to then manage and supervise and, lead your staff? As you grow, you will need a team. Honestly, regardless of how much money you want to make, how many weddings you want to do, how big of weddings you want to do, regardless, you will need a team. Because what happens if you eat weird chicken and get food poisoning and are absolutely incapacitated for 3 days and it's a wedding week? You need to have a team, and you need to have the people that you can call on to run the show if you are not able to be there. Now, this, I think, is one of the biggest pain points for a lot of small business owners in general and a lot of studio florists. This is something I do want to keep tackling, so stay tuned with that. But staying in the topic for today, you do need to be ready to manage that staff, to organize the staff, communicate with them, lead them, and get the results from your team. So if you are wanting to just make centerpieces all day long and listen to podcasts and put together centerpieces. That's great for a floral designer, but as a business owner, you do need to be prepared to schedule your staff and, hire and interview and put the right teams together and look at your staff and who's strong in what way and help grow the strengths in them and develop your team. You do need to be ready to do that. And even if it's literally one person, which might be the case, especially in the beginning, and delegating to the staff and all those little things, they do exist, and you do need to be prepared to take that on. I will say, again, we're all continually growing and learning, and you don't need to be the perfect team manager and team lead right now, but you do need to be aware that if you want your business to grow, that is a place you will need to grow. Now, could you be managing the team and still making centerpieces all day? Could that be your job? And maybe you've delegated some of the management to somebody else? Yes, 100%. But you're still managing, you're still overseeing, and you're still part of that chain of command, at the top of the chain of command, really, as the owner, you should be. You're still the CEO, you're still driving the ship, and everyone is still, eventually answering to you, and, you're still managing everyone. Even if you hire a manager to manage other people, they're still going to you. So that is an important part. The other parts, I would say, just checking over my list, I want to make sure I hit on all the big ones before this gets going too long. I think the other parts to think about are just logistical things, and just things to be realistic about. I grew up with, my parents were business owners. They owned a farm business. I guess they still do. So they own a farm business. My dad was part of a construction business as well. And so I was around that all the time. I was exposed to just what was going on behind the scenes all the time. But if you were not, if that's something totally new to you, I will tell you a few things, and you probably already know these, but, or maybe you think you already know them. I don't know. I guess it's hard. It's hard for me to imagine not being around business owners, because that's been my entire life. But I don't want to breeze over this, because if that hasn't been a part of your life, these could be real reality check items. So realistically, you just have to be ready for, it is a lot of work. The workload, it doesn't end. You don't just turn it off. Now, you can work on your work-life balance, and you should, and you shouldn't feel like you're drowning in your business all the time. But I also believe, this is what I believe, take it or leave it, but as the business owner, you do love your business. Your business gets you excited. You're into it. It's always moving and changing. And those are things that you should like and be excited about, because that's the reality. It will always be growing, moving, changing. And, I don't know how to say this without, I want to say this the right way. I think about my business almost all the time. Not all the time, and not obsessively or anxiously, but it's in the back of my mind. Okay, I was on vacation last week, which I didn't do too much work. I did a few emails here or there, but very minimal. I wouldn't consider that, I wasn't working on vacation. But I went into a restroom at one of the hikes that we were at, and there was this cool, long, shallow sink. It sounds kind of funny right now, but if you are a wedding florist, you'll be excited. It was this perfect sink, and I saw it, and immediately it was oh my gosh, I love the dimensions of this. The way that the faucet is shaped is really nice. This would be an incredible flower bucket sink. Hold on, let me dry my hands. I'm gonna look. I look around the corner of the sink. There's a label with the company and the serial number. And now I'm taking a picture of the label on this sink on my vacation. because I'm thinking this would be perfect for my studio space. I think I would love this for my buckets. And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. I'm not on vacation thinking, oh my gosh, this wedding, these things are, oh, I'm so worried. And you shouldn't be. That's not healthy. But things like that, where I'm like, now I'm thinking about my studio space. And now on the hike, I'm telling my husband, like, I found this really cool sink. What do you think about this? How should we set up the faucets? I love it. And so just be prepared for that. And of course, keep it healthy. Boundaries are great. But there is some degree of, just your business becoming such a big part of your life. And for me, that's exciting. I love it. I cannot imagine my life without it. But, and of course, then there are the things where, like, yeah, sometimes we have a late night pickup. We're getting, candles and rental items from the venue, picking them up at the end of the night, which is like 11 p.m.-ish. And yeah, if I don't have staff that I can set up to go pick it up, guess what? Then, I'll be the one picking it up. If, same thing, if there's no staff available for the week to do the prep work, then I'm the one doing the prep work and taking that extra time. And maybe there is a night or two that week where I am working later than I might ideally be working. If there is slack to pick up, you'll be the one picking up the slack as the business owner. Now, the right systems, the right team, the right processes in place should not, you shouldn't be picking up the slack all the time, carrying all the weight, feeling burnt out and overburdened by your business. But there are times where something came up in, one of my team members' lives. And so I had to fill in the space on that weekend. And, I had to go back through the calendar and try to figure out who could fill in the space. Or if no one could, then I knew I had to get up really early to prep a few more things in the morning. Whatever it is, just be prepared to fill in the gaps if they come up. And I don't know, just be prepared for your business to really, be something big in your life and exciting. And it should be. But if you want that full, like, clock out and never think about work again sort of a sensation, which frankly, I don't know if that exists at all. I've never worked a real 9-to-5 job, so I don't know. Sometimes in my mind, I imagine this like glorious 9-to-5 life where you clock out and you don't think about work ever. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, that won't be the case as a business owner, as far as my experience goes. I will say the other parts are things like, no paid vacation, no paid sick days. Again, figuring out your business and setting it up the right way, this should not be an issue. This has literally never been a problem for me. But I've also never had paid time off or sick leave or anything like that, like never in my life. So to me, I'm used to it. I don't know. Again, my parents didn't have that in their businesses that they owned either. They had systems, they had backups, they had processes, as I do now, if something were to happen. But just be, prepared not to have that. Now, again, I'm not going to get on this paid time off thing too much, but don't consider that a bad thing because, yes, I don't have paid time off, but I can take as much time off as I want. I can book a few extra weddings in a season and then, take a vacation whenever it's convenient in my schedule. And, I don't really worry about the fact that it's not paid because half of my calendar year is kind of unpaid if you think about it, since my income comes in mostly during wedding season. So don't take that as a bad thing, but don't be like shocked by it either, I guess. I'm trying to think of what else. I guess the only other part that I will touch on a little bit, this isn't so much like wedding florist versus floral design in a shop at another business, or I said that wrong. This isn't so much business owner versus florist in a shop, but just in general, if you think you would like to start a business, just think about the things like how much money you would like to make and need to make, and how many hours you do want to work each week, how many weddings you want to do each year, and just make sure that the math all adds up. So if you want to sell $100,000, do $100,000 in revenue each year, then you could do 10 weddings that are $10,000 each, or 40 weddings that are $2,500 each, or somewhere in between, or you could do one wedding for $100,000, per year. Whatever it is, figure it out and make sure it makes sense. If you only want to work 2 weekends a year and you want to make $100,000, figure out if you can sell two $50,000 weddings. Now, that would, of course, be like the luxury market. If you only want to work 10 weddings a year and make $100,000, you'd have to do 10 $10,000 weddings. And just make sure that that is realistic for you. And, only you're the one that, again, you're the business owner. These are the kinds of things that you do have to figure out. And then make the decision on. I think anything is possible. Could you do one $100K wedding a year? You probably could. I wouldn't, never say never. But you need to know if you realistically can do that. Or again, if it's $100,000 weddings a year, is that realistic for you? Wherever you are on that spectrum, whatever it is that you're trying to get, make sure it's realistic, that you think you can do it, and that you have the bandwidth, you have the skill, you have the systems, you have the team. Make sure you can do what you need to do to get what you want. And I think those are kind of the big things. So all of this collectively, if I were starting this all over again, I would take all of this and have myself a sit-down session, put on some soft instrumental music, get a nice coffee or something, shut the door, make sure I'm not going to get disturbed, maybe put some headphones on even, and just sit down and really think about it all. Think about what kind of life you want to live, what those goals are that you would have to meet, Sorry, hold on. I think I'm getting a call. Okay. I don't know if it cut out. My phone rang for a second, but if it did or not, what I was saying was, if I was trying to decide this again, I would sit down, and figure that all out. Get in a good headspace where you can really think, is managing a team and making decisions and calling the shots and figuring things out and picking up the slack when I really have to, when the what hits the what. Can I do those things? Am I willing to, and am I able to? And if I'm lacking, am I willing to grow? Because that's an option too. And just make sure that you're ready for all of that. And if you are, if that's exciting to you, if just this general episode made you kind of get your wheels spinning and think yes, this sounds like me, then go for it. Start that business. And, go on ahead, do it. If you think all of this seems like a lot, it doesn't sound like you, it's not resonating, you like this more laid back, go and follow the recipe, make the things. Yes, you want to work hard and you want to excel in your skill and craft and, be able to make these really cool creations and maybe take ownership and run with it a little bit here and there. But you do want, the design to be the focus versus that business-minded CEO set of skills. Then I would really consider working at a shop or freelancing. Whether it's a traditional shop, a wedding specialist with a studio, or again, just freelancing here and there with other, traditional and studio florists, that could totally be an option for you too. So I hope that this was helpful. I think if you kind of sit with it, you even just listening to this episode, if you have a gut feeling or something really resonated, or you're feeling this pit in your stomach, oh gosh, I don't know, listen to that spirit inside of you. that will give you the guidance that you need. I really believe that. If you are still confused, DM me. We can hash it out a little bit more, and make space to sit down and just kind of like get in your head a little bit and think it all through and flesh it out. I think that can be super, super helpful as well. As well as praying over it and seeking God's guidance and seeing where you feel that Holy Spirit just like lighting up and guiding you towards. So that is it for today. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and feel free to like, follow, subscribe, whatever it is, depending on the platform you're listening on. And check us out at Rose Floral School on Instagram and TikTok. And I will see you all next time. Have a great day.